Voices of Leeds. Now recalls then. Volume 1, Number 2. Leeds, a small town that rests in the rolling countryside of Alabama, is and has been a home to a wonderful array of people. In this audio series, you're invited to hear histories from a few of those residents, in their own words and from their own mouths. In this section, we visit the life of Mrs. Georgiana Walker, who came to Leeds in 1917. 7 years earlier, she had been born to Ella and Jasper Isbell in a small settlement at the Narrows. The Narrows was formed by a geological upheaval sometime in the unrecorded past, at a point where part of the mountain went one way and part of it went another, leaving huge cliffs and a gorge with a small rivulet running through it. Among the other places you'll hear about in the next few minutes are Butts Hill, a residential area on a small rise behind where the high school currently sits, Donovan, Alabama, some 20 miles to the south, and the shale quarry, which provided the cement plant with an essential element for its product until sometime in the 1960s. It's now filled with water, fed by deep springs. But back at the Narrows when Jasper died, Ella found herself alone with small children and isolated. So she took her family, among them Georgiana, and moved some 20 miles over Oak Mountain on slow and rugged roads to Leeds.
My name is Georgiana Walker, and I was born in Shelby County. And I come to Leeds in 1917. Of course, I was a little bitty kid, but we lived down here at what they call the Narrows at Chelsea, and my father died. And I had a married sister that lived up here, and her husband worked at the cement plant. So we come up here and got us a house. And there was 5 of us, I believe there was. The rest of them was married. And my mother brought us up here, and we moved in one of my Uncle Sherman houses and lived there over here at the city park for a long, long time. I can't even remember. Then we bought a place. Let's see, you come out the street and turn on that bridge like you're going up to Butts Hill, right there on the corner. We bought a place and lived there for years. And then later on, we built another house. My brother was a carpenter, and built another house and lived over here at the shale quarry for a long time. It was let's see, 1, 2. It was a 4-room house with a porch on the front. And see, it was just 4 of us at that time, because the others had gotten married, you know. And we lived there for a long time, and it was a nice house. It just a wood house, that's all you can see out of it. Like I say, my brother was a carpenter, and he did things like that. And that's where I got married when I lived there years later.
A wiry lady with a wry sense of humor sits in her armchair across from you, a microphone clipped to her lapel. At first, it doesn't seem as if she's entirely given to the session of recollection.
You and Steve Calloway's going to get a whooping. When I get able, I'm going to whoop both of you.
She's referred to the person who suggested this interview. The laughter, you might note, was not entirely without some trepidation. But as she begins to talk, the sharp eyes of her memory begin to see things, places, people, and times, other than those in her living room, in her home in Leeds, Alabama, of today. We get an orientation of the town of Leeds as it was.
Leeds wasn't anything, just scattered houses. There's a lot of people in a way, and on the way it didn't seem like there's nobody. There was a house here, and way over here is another one, and like that, you know, it hadn't built up. They was Frank Hurst just building over there where Leon Lee got his place, and Miss Hagwood, and Mr. Butts. He had a hotel there where the gazebo is, across from City Hall over there. And then he had a store down between the City Hall and the cement plant. And that's all the store I remember for a long time after we come to leave.
That road that's Parkway Drive and Highway 78, what was it called then? Do you remember?
An old wagon road, just an old buildings here and way over yonder another, and just a wagon road going up through there. And going from City Hall toward the railroads, there was 2 or 3 buildings, and they had some boards laid down for sidewalks. But the road was actually just an old wagon road, just like that. And they got their water, the city part of it, got their water out of a well right in front of Hurst's building out there, right in the middle of the road. And they had a well that you draw that water like that, you know, in a bucket. And then there was one building on that side, and the post office was in it. Going down from City Hall, down that way, there was 2 or 3 dwelling houses, you know, where people lived. Just one here and one over there like that. And this house on the other side, going down that way toward the plant, I believe I'm right. I think it belonged to Miss McLaughlin, and it's been there for years and years and years. It's sitting right behind the first house on the corner there, down that way, and it's one of them old, people used to call them shotgun houses. You know, they made straight and no design or anything. And that house was there. On the other corner then, there was a building, and Mr. Cleveland, he had a grocery store there after so long. And then Powers, he put a cafe there. Oh, I don't know, I just remember a lot of it. And Mr. Melvin Sproul's house was down there where the Covenant Bank is. And he run a drugstore there behind the gazebo going out on the left in that brick building. And T.B. Whitmire, he run a furniture store right there beside him. And then years later, Miss Cooper, she had a store on the other side, right on the corner, where that picture's drawn on the side of the building of that train. That was Miss Cooper's store.
What did she sell?
She had a dry goods store there. Over there at the Hagwood place, they had a hotel and a dry goods store later. You know, they just, as the cement plant come to leave, well, then it just started building up, you know. You take that where the City Hall is. Now, my nephew laid them bricks at City Hall back in 35 or 36. And right beside him was my uncle's house, Uncle Doug Isbell. He lived there for years and years and years.
The geography of the town which you just heard covered a span of a couple of decades. Even as a child, Georgiana came to know the area very well. Though hers could not be considered a childhood of much ease, through it there seemed to have been many happy times. When asked what her favorite memory is from her childhood, it becomes clear who provided her that memory, and just who was, and perhaps is, her hero.
I guess I'd have to say that it was back when I was growing up. My mother carried us to church. We looked forward to going to church and getting ready to go to church and things like that. I reckon that's would be my favorite, because she believed in that and carried us regular. We had a church over here at Shalequer that we went to, and then we had one over at Donovan that we went to. We went on the train a lot of times to Donovan for 10 cents a fare, you know, each one. The way the trains run, we could ride over there and walk 2 or 3 miles to the church, and then we could come back to the train and ride home. And that's back when they charged us a dime, us kids, a dime for piece to ride that train from over there, over here, over there. Shoot, they'd make fun of you and laugh at you and everything else. Now, if you told that. We was raised up poor people, and we had to use our money for what it counted most. We didn't have much luxury. You take one person trying to make a living for 4 people and not enough education to even recognize their name, they had to do whatever they could get to do. My mother made a living for us kids at home, and she didn't have any education, so she did work for people, like housework and washing and things like that. And we used to help her do all we know to do and all we could do that. And we didn't know what it was to buy a Christmas tree, or we didn't have the money. But my mother, she always found a little pine tree, and she made us a little tree and decorated it. And we had toys just like everybody else, only ours might not have been as much or, as many. Just we'd have our Christmas Day dinner and things like that. But we had a good life. We didn't have no fussing, no arguing. What my mother said went. That was all there was to it.
Since we live in an era of fingertip convenience, pushing a button or touching a screen to provide ourselves with transportation, communication, education, and entertainment, we sometimes tend to forget that there is immense diversion that can be found in silence and a life stripped of amenities. According to the National Center for Children Exposed to Violence, today's child can witness some 30 acts of violence in a single day. It's very much like a refreshing shower to know that there was a time, not too long ago, where months, perhaps years passed without an act of violence directly viewed. But when it happened, it was vivid enough to last a lifetime. Take, for example, a train wreck on nearby tracks, even after the event.
This one that goes across the road down here. One morning we got up and we heard a racket that we didn't understand what was. We got out and got looking, and the engine in the coal car had sit down from the top down in that creek down there. There it sat there, and the others just up there on the track. This barbecue place down there, old Smoky, they used to have a picture that down there. Yeah, that was quite a sight to see. It looked just like, just like, here sits cars up here, down here sits the engine in this creek. There's one of the cars that stuck way out, looked like you could see under it. There's that coal car and the engine down here in this creek.
Other adventures were a little less dramatic, though perhaps no less exciting, and took a good deal more effort to achieve, like taking a trip into Birmingham and back the hard way.
He was excited. Of course, we wanted to see everything, and, like kids is, we just often just a trip, and we just enjoyed it. Our train was 2 legs. We had to walk everywhere we went. Have to walk down the road like she's going down to Callaway store, turn there to the right, and go over the hill there to a little old place over there, and then you strike the old Leeds Road and go on in Birmingham. At one time, we had the honor of going in a mule and wagon. A mule pulling a wagon.
A little later in her life, there were more trips, but for reasons other than seeing the sights, trips were included in an interesting endeavor for the summer months.
And I went to singing school a lot of times in the summertime. This was just songs in books, religious songs, just like they are now. We wasn't allowed to sing nothing else, just church music. And I could sing any of them. I loved them all. And they old ones, new ones too, in that same book. It didn't matter to me. My brother wouldn't do nothing but me go. Of course, I wanted to go anyway. Oh, we'd go everywhere. It was a group of us. They just got a group of us. We just had like tenor and alto and soprano and things like that, Each one sung its part. And we went to Donovan, Vandenberg, Birmingham, just anywhere like that on Sunday evening and sang. Some of the churches would have organ, some of them have piano. Shoot, I've been everywhere singing. My teacher was named Robinson. I never will forget that old feller. He was so nice. He was just good to us kids and tried to learn us and show us and took care of us, watched us just like a hawk, see that we was all right and everything. He was so nice to all of us. But we had a wonderful time. We had a wonderful time doing that.
To say that this time we explore through the words of this venerable lady was an era of bucolic peace, that nothing was amiss, all was bliss, and childhood was spent watching country clouds and making clover chains, would be a disservice and not come anywhere close to the reality of it. Hunger is hunger, need is need, hardship is hardship, not to be confused with inconvenience. Asked her favorite adolescent memory, Mrs. Georgiana Walker replied,
I really don't know, because I had to work all the time and help make the living, and so I really didn't have a favorite.